other questions?
Is there anything that needs to us now?
Not at this point. Okay. Yeah, like I said, we're just trying to get them under contract. I have worked with MAG on trying to develop that scope and for what we needed to do, and I think we'll have them under contract shortly, and I'll be contacting the mayor and also the county manager to try to figure out who we want at that meeting to discuss the goals.
Matt, I really think there's a lot of us have goals on that. So it kind of sounds like some people will come and some people won't. Shouldn't it be a public meeting so that we can get more input, or are you just looking for specific leaders to attend this meeting?
I think at this point it needs to be specific leaders. If we open it up to the public, it's going to get we're going to get all sorts of stuff in it.
I wasn't saying it that way. I mean, like, is everybody invited here, or are you going to select that down?
Yeah, I think everybody, all the elected officials that want to come can come.
So aren't there some parameters within the amount of money that, there was an RFP and we can't just kind of turn it into this huge thing? I mean, what are the boundaries of what we can ask for?
So I think there is some flexibility in being able to move that scope around a little bit, but we have $200,000 for the study, and that's all we have at this point. But if there are certain things that we need to have, we have the flexibility to possibly go after a little bit more funding from UDOT or other sources to be able to make that happen. We have the flexibility to add money to it if we need to.
But the RFP that you put out outlines what you expect them to do already, right?
Yes.
So you've already determined without that meeting what they're going to do. Is that the horse ahead of the wagon a bit, or what? Or behind the wagon?
Not necessarily. I think we've been through this process. This is actually a fairly new process in the fact that we're trying to bridge planning with the environmental, and so I think the real issue is it could grow into something that it's not supposed to be as an environmental document, but it's supposed to be inserted into that. So used for the environmental document, so we don't have to pay for it twice. But we've used this process in other cities, and it's mostly a planning document.
I guess the only angst I'm feeling is that as public officials in this area, we come to a meeting to talk about what we need when the contract has already been let to do the study. So it seems like you're asking us just to make us feel good, or what?
No. I see what you're saying, but really what it's going to do, like I said, it's meant to determine, what's going to take to get traffic off of Main Street, what it will do to Main Street traffic, like what to expect, how many trucks we think is going to come off of it, which I think
it will include traffic studies.
Yes.
Quite a bit of it.
Mm-hmm. It starts out as a traffic study, so they're going to look at kind of where traffic is coming from, where it's going to give it an origin and a destination study, and then they're going to actually come out and count vehicles and things like that. So it's going to be a lot more detailed than just the electronic data we get off of the signals.
I think as far as to have an accurate RFP, I think this gets around long enough, as they've talked about long enough by enough officials. I think we have a pretty good idea of what we need in that RFP. I don't think it's some mystery.
And Sean has had plenty of input in that as well.
I understand. I mean, how many years have we talked about this? So I think the RFP is probably pretty accurate on what we need.
You mentioned the sub-consultants, Beck, because I'm quite impressed with the lineup of sub-consultants that the Avenues Consulting arranged.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
BioWest.
Yeah, BioWest for the wetlands, so we can basically have an idea if that alignment is actually going to work, or what kind of challenges we would see if we choose an alignment that goes through some of the wetlands that are in the north fields. We have an Avenue Consultants. Their traffic division is really, really strong. That was, we've had some people question their numbers before in the past, and when it came down to it, after construction, we had one of the mayors came in and kind of started complaining about they didn't think those numbers were correct. And after it was all said and done, he came back and apologized to them and said, you know, we're sorry, we doubted you. And so that was kind of a good thing to hear, that our consultant was correct. And they kind of stuck to their guns and made sure that they were right. We asked them to verify it, and he verified it. So I have full confidence in their ability to determine the traffic and model that.
Some of the language that we put in the scope when the RFP was sent out was that we wanted to have the alignment of the bypass determined so that we could rely on purchasing those properties. I thought that was one of the big purposes of this whole thing.
It is, and like I said, that's still going to be in question. Well, really what it's going to do is going to tell you what to the county and the city, what to preserve. And then at that point, when it comes into where it needs to go into environmental document, more than likely it's going to follow where you preserve that property. But that's why we had them look at the wetlands to make sure that it was going to be feasible to actually construct.
Sorry, very close. Is there a way to get that scope out so everybody can see it?
Yeah, I can send it out.
I don't know if anybody else is.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, next item on the agenda is discussion of the 2050 population and job allocation in Wasatch County. We'll turn it over to Sean Seeger.
Thank you, Mayor Potter. Sean Seeger with Mountain Land Association of Governments, and I have Chad Eccles here with me tonight. He's another member of our staff, and we work for the mayors and county council members in Summit, Wasatch, and Utah counties. And I'm going to very briefly just describe to you how we allocate population and jobs in Wasatch County. So the Gardner Policy Institute gives us a county control total for Wasatch County for the year 2050. And we're in the process of updating all of our long-range transportation plans, all the UDOT plans and the individual metropolitan planning organization plans. This area falls underneath UDOT's responsibility to update the long-range transportation plan. And in partnership with UDOT, they have partnered with Mountain Land to create a long-range transportation plan for Wasatch County, which you folks will have an opportunity to participate in and vote on and approve in June of 2019. Which sounds like a long ways off, or it used to. Now it doesn't have much anymore since it's 18. But it'll be here before we know it. So we're in the process of getting some of our population numbers together. The Gardner Policy Institute gave us that Wasatch County 2050 control total. You can see that it's at 68. Is that what I'm seeing there? 68,000 population in 2050. 30 years off or so from the year that we approve it. We will add some 37,000 residents to Heber Valley. In between now and then, we'll add 37,000 people. We're at about 31. Thank you. We're at 31 right now. And then the employment or the jobs is the blue line. Today we have about 15,000 jobs in Wasatch County, and in the year 2050 we'll have 25,000. That'll add about 10,000 jobs in between now and then. So huge amount of growth. That's I think everyone's aware that we're growing fast. It's just stunning to see that that's the projection. So the Gardner Policy Institute, they give us those numbers. Then what we have to do is we have to work with your planners and your engineers to break those into these boxes called traffic analysis zones. And the computer system we use to predict traffic, it's kind of like Sim City, the computer game. It simulates where those trips will go and how they'll get from their house to their job. So we put them into these traffic analysis zones, and we've already done that. We've done that in previous years. This is probably what our third plan or so, third or fourth plan over the 20 years, 15 years we've been doing this up here. And so we're going to take another stab at allocating that additional population. We're adding another, 10,000 people from our last plan in 2040 to the 2050 plan. So we add another 9,239 people and another, 3,000 jobs to Wasatch County. Yes?
As you make that analysis, how much do you dig into, we have discussions in our city about the density we've already awarded. Do you go look at
Density.
the density that's been approved and assume that those will be built out in X number of years? I mean, we just added 600 houses down on the south end. Will that be incorporated in the hub impact?
It
Kind of
does.
study?
We take your land use plan, which is some of the densities that you've approved and densities that you have not approved yet. But we take that land use plan and we say, that's what could be there in the future. And then we say, what is the total population going to be in Wasatch County? And where are those areas that are growing? And we use the construction monitor service to tell us where the building permits are coming in from. We use some other construction monitoring reports as well. And then, what was it, last week? Doug and Tony and thank you, Michael. We met in this room, I think it was last week.
It was.
And we talked with your planners and engineers about where they think those hot spots are.
So we're in the process of looking at the policy annexation plan. We're talking to the county about it.
Right.
How much projection can you do? If we come and say, we annex this area, where's our bottlenecks, where's our problems, can you do that ahead, or we just record the history?
No, we do that.
Project that out.
Yes, that's the whole purpose.
Before we approve it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that could be a fairly quick turnaround.
Oh, we can do it very quickly. Yes, we do this all the time with the
Well, that'd already be in the county projection.
Yeah, I mean,
Not gonna change it, so it won't be any different.
yeah, we could load that area up if you wanted, do some simulations and some different modeling associated
So if
with
our city planner came and said, here's our plan,
it. Yeah.
you could get that back.
Yeah.
Behind me like.
We work with Tony and Bart all the time on different scenarios, different areas that have been developing. What if we did this? What if we did that? That's an easy thing for us to do.
Sean, where did you get that map?
This map, I'm actually not sure because Bob Allen retrieved that for me in our office.
I'm just wondering how that map was developed.
So the traffic analysis zones are kind of like census blocks. And what they attempt to do is, those yellow lines that you're seeing there are basically geographic areas that are contiguous. And so they say how many homes are in this area. If it's a very dense area, you need to have smaller traffic analysis zones. If it's a rural area, you can get away with a big zone. Is that your question, Councilmember?
Is that river yellow right now?
Well, it is because it's a boundary line for one of the traffic analysis zones, yeah. No, we don't want to do, this is not a road plan.
That was projected pollution.
So these yellow lines are borders for what we call traffic analysis zones. The best way to think about it is like a census tract. If you've ever dealt with any census tract data, you'll notice that they break those up into individual blocks and then into individual groups. So I'm just kind of explaining what we do with that Gardner Policy Institute County Control Tool is we break it down into these smaller boxes. And then the travel demand model takes that information and it says, okay, a typical household in Utah produces 10 trips a day, 10 vehicle trips a day out of that house and assigns it to the road. And that road, and it might go from that road and directly in front of the house to the school, and back from the school to the supermarket, back from the supermarket to the job, and so on. The average Utah household is 10 trips. My house is probably 25 trips, how busy we are.
Well, can you build transit, mass transit models and all that too?
Yes. In fact, Chad's going to talk to us tonight a little bit about the potential of doing some transit analysis, because we're at the point of developing a new RTP. It'd be a great opportunity to consider transit if that's something that the valley is interested in us looking at. So this is just a computer model. It's kind of basic. You can see the hub intersection there, the Y. It's zoomed way out. That green connection up on the left is Guardsman's Pass. And I'm not going to spend too much time on that. This is my last slide. Just wanted to show you what we do with that then is we show, we approve these numbers. You guys will be involved in the approval of this population and employment numbers of how we've distributed those. We'll bring this stuff back to you after we've had another round of meetings with your planners and engineers, get you to approve those, and then they'll go into these traffic analysis zones that we use for planning for the next 4 years until we do this again. We do it every 4 years, so that's how I sleep good at night, is I know that I don't have to be right all the way through the year 2050. I just need to be right for the next 4 years or so, and then we can relook at it again.
Sean,
Yeah.
do your studies take into account the number of secondary homes the community has? Obviously the daily trips are different on that, and we're about 50% on second homes in the county.
Great question. This population estimate is only full-time residents. So the travel demand model that we currently use does not take into account secondary homes. The new one that we're considering, that we're trying to build with some of our modeling group would take into account those secondary homes and special events and special attractors and other things, weekend traffic. Right now, the model that we use does not take into account weekend traffic. It takes into account a typical weekday. Is that right, Matt?
I believe so, yeah.
And yet weekends are a big problem.
Yes.
It's here, but a model of how many people are going to Strawberry, how many people are going to Deer Creek on a weekend.
Agreed. And that is our desire, is to try to create a model that is sensitive to those secondary homes and those special events and to transit. The model that we use right now is not sensitive to any of those 3 items. An easy solution that we visualize is we have a model in the area. It's the Summit County model that we can stretch over and use it to do our modeling. And it does take into account that weekend traffic, transit potential, and secondary homes. So we could use that Summit County model in this area if we find that that's desirable or requested by you folks from the local governments. Yes, ma'am?
Sean, does it take into consideration the trend of people working from home versus driving to an employment site?
Great question. Yes, it does. We do a household travel survey about once every 10 years. And it keeps track of, basically assigns a travel diary to a household that says, keep track of all your trips and tell us what you did. And a certain percentage of those people are people that work from home. Okay. So we have a work from home component, and then we have the American Community Survey. Kendall, you probably know these terms better than I do. And the American Community Survey with the U.S. Census Bureau also measures work from home occupations. Other questions?
I know the Kindergarten Institute hasn't been around forever, so
Right.
you probably use the data before that, but how accurate has the population data been for our county, at least for the last 20 years?
Great question. The Gardner Policy Institute has not been around very long. It was just created by the Utah legislature 2 or 3 years ago, and then a donation from the Ken Gardner family. They have taken over the work that was previously done by the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, GOMB. And the Governor's Office used to do these projections for us. And when we get this asked question about Utah County all the time, how accurate has the forecast been? And when we look back in time, we can see that the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget has been too conservative in their projections, meaning they have not, what we actually saw was greater than what the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget was projecting for our area, as much as 20%, too low. Or, yeah, meaning the projection was too low, and our numbers that came in were 20% greater than what they predicted.
And see, that would make sense to me. Utah was huge, right?
Yes.
And nobody thought the other
Yeah.
side of the lake would be developed, and now it's the fastest. I'm just saying, we're not Utah Valley.
That's right.
We're small. We just don't have that developable land, given the federal land, et cetera, in our county. And I'm just saying, where in the world are all these people going to be, given our land constraints such as they are?
Yeah, if you think about, visualize it this way, the city of American Fork right now is about 30,000 people. The city of Orem is about 90,000 people. Those are pretty compact, intense, dense cities, but physically, the amount of space they take up is not a great amount of space. You do have quite a bit of available space in Heber Valley itself. I recognize State Park, of course, the National Forest pieces as well, but as far as we can tell, we have enough property that in your general plan right now to absorb that amount of population.
Are you taking into account the North Fields and efforts to preserve that?
We do take into account the current zoning that's in place, 1 to 20, is that right? In the North Fields, and that is a part of that calculation, but nothing denser. We just take your existing general plans.
Doug, do you have an idea, I'm putting you on the spot, do you have an idea in your head, just based on what has been approved so far, what our growth potential is for the county, when we consider Jordan, Strawberry, North Village, all of the county? Because it's at least double, I think, and more.
Yeah, there's a lot of entitled density out there, a lot, and I know I've come up with rough numbers before, but I know if I quote them, I'll be way off. But what Sean and I do when we sit down and go over these TAS zones is I have a geographic area, for example, Mayflower, West Side. I know that in 30, 40 years, there might be 2,000 units in there. Obviously, over half of those will probably be second homes. So I've got to go to those TAS zones with Sean and say, there's going to be 1,000 or 800 units in here that are year-round. I've got to estimate that for every single TAS zone in the county. We started that, we'll be doing that again tomorrow. So I know if I give you some numbers, they'll be way off. So.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sean?
Yes, Mike?
Along with that, that's a question, and I've asked Sean this question many times. How does the Gardner Institutes, how do they get their numbers? Because if they were based somewhat loosely on permits, for instance, then the 31,000 would really only equate to about 15,000 people, because we're 50% second homes or less. And so without the actual census data to correlate with what they're now doing, I mean, we'll know that in 2 years. So to say that they're going to be woefully under or woefully over, we don't know, but we'll certainly have a better idea of where they are. But we are somewhat unique between us and Summit County. We have a significant difference of social makeup in our of what's built. And as Doug explained, when Doug looks at things, he looks at number of units built, not population. And so we don't have those correlations incredibly well within the county at this time. So, but I think we're zeroing in, and I think that's a lot of the purpose of what's being done, is to start to zero in on those types of things. And we say there'll be 10,000 units in Jordanelle, if that's the number. Well, that may be 5,000 people, it may be some other number.
Right.
But we haven't zeroed in on that.
How well does I worked for the census for 2 years, and the misnomer, misunderstanding a lot of people have, census goes on every month, all the way in between. I worked for the census 2 years after 2010, and they do censuses all the time. So the question is, how well do they coordinate that data with the state? Because I'm just looking at your zones, and I'm aware of what we were doing as a census. We could put moving numbers into those zones, but the census was a little bit proprietary on their maps and their processes and stuff. So I'm just wondering how much they claim they get these ongoing censuses for the benefit of planning, but my question is, how much do they share with you on an ongoing basis?
Well, that study, isn't that what you mentioned that study?
Yeah, the American Community Survey
That's
is
part
that
of that.
yearly update.
That's what I worked on.
Yeah, and that's a yearly update, just like what you described, Councilmember.
Well, it's a monthly.
Yes, and we get a report once a year. And so we get a yearly update as to what the current census estimate is. Remember, a census by definition is a count of people every 10 years, just like what you
Well,
described.
every 10 years and absolutely everybody, and
They
the
count every year.
community survey extrapolates what they have with
Yes.
what the
And it
trends
does
are
sample.
showing.
Yeah, they do some sampling, and then the estimate is what the estimated amount of people are every year. We get that number every year from the census Bureau. They do really good coordination.
I was doing one of 4 or 5 different ongoing homes, and I sampled 40 out of Wasatch County, Wasatch and Summit. So it's not a lot, but it's a
Yeah.
sample.
Really interesting data. If you ever have time, go on the census website, and there's a tool on there that gives you how people travel to work, what their income, what their, all kinds of correlation data. It's really fascinating.